Wax on, wax off. Hello everyone, you're in an all-new My Favorite segment, and today I'm going to be going over my favorite Karate Kid films. Yeah, like any other 90s kids, I was heavily influenced by martial arts films, whether it be from Three Ninjas, Sidekicks, Mortal Kombat, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, or The Karate Kid. The Karate Kid was one of those films that inspired me to participate in karate when I was a younger kid. I didn't follow through in my older years, but I was definitely a fan of martial arts at a young age. And today, I'm going to be going over my least favorite to most favorite films out of the Karate Kid film series. Now, this will include the Karate Kid trilogy, the next Karate Kid, and the remake of the Karate Kid. Yeah, I love all the films. There isn't really a film I hate, so for my least favorite, I would probably have to pick the next Karate Kid. Now, this was the first Karate Kid I actually saw. I had no idea there was another Karate Kid series, let alone 3 films. So Hilary Swank's version here in 1994 was the first one I saw on HBO at a young age. I really like the next Karate Kid. It's pretty much a female version of the previous 3 films, but she plays a delinquent, really. She's at a military school, and they suffered a death in the family. She's going through a hard time, and Mr. Miyagi is a friend of her father's, so he pretty much kind of mentors her and really sets her in a better path. She's going through a lot of issues right now. Meanwhile, we also have a theme of bullying at this military school, much like the previous Karate Kid films. So we get to deal with that, and I like it. It's through a girl's perspective. It's different from Daniel LaRusso. Hilary Swank here is really her own character. You also have a love story and a love interest that's aligned with the bullies. So it's very much a gender swap of the Karate Kid. This is much more of a silly, child-friendly film compared to the previous 3, but it does have its moments. I do like the scenes with the monks, and Mr. Miyagi, as always, does not disappoint. Overall, I really love the next Karate Kid since it's the first one I saw, but I don't like it as much as the other ones. It's not a bad film. It's just kind of different and not as good as the other ones. The director of this also directed Young Guns and Pure Country. So it's a very well done film. Overall, it's just like another version of the Karate Kid. It's the next Karate Kid. And this is really an isolated story. I think they maybe wanted a franchise out of this, like the Daniel LaRusso trilogy, but it just didn't work. But I like it as like a spin-off / sequel. It's a nice little touch and a breath of fresh air to have another perspective other than Daniel's perspective in the first 3 films. Pretty much, what else could they do with the series at this point? And the next Karate Kid is a strong film by itself. It's maybe not as good as the previous films, but by itself, it's a worthy film, and I really like it as a conclusion to the original films of the Karate Kid series. After that, I would probably have to put the 2010 remake of The Karate Kid. In many ways, I like this maybe even better than the original. I really like what they do here, but it is a lot of what we've seen before, and it's not really karate, it's more of kung fu. They just put karate there. But above all, I really like Jaden Smith. I like the story. It feels dramatic. It's totally different. It's basically the Karate Kid, but if he moves to China instead of California. I really like the stuff they do with Jackie Chan. And I couldn't think of any better actor to be like the next Mr. Miyagi of our times other than Jackie Chan. He's perfect in this role, and he also adds a lot of depth with his backstory, especially concerning his ex-wife in the movie. It's a very tragic story, and you really get to see why he lives this way. Pretty much, there's romance, there's bullies. It's pretty much the same plot as the original Karate Kid, but I really like it. The fighting has really improved, and Jaden Smith plays a very different character. He's a small character. You can see why maybe he gets his ass kicked and why he needs help. Everything about it is what you love from the original Karate Kid. It's just put into a different perspective for the millennium. And I like the location change. In a way, it's like the best parts of Karate Kid and Karate Kid Part 2 combined. Above all, it's a solid remake, and it's not nearly as bad as what people say. As a matter of fact, I don't think they should have remade it. I think they should have just pretty much said it's another Karate Kid. Maybe like another sequel. It'd be like the next Karate Kid Part 2 or another Karate Kid. Above all, I wouldn't mind seeing this universe and Daniel's universe combined, but it's a solid entry, a solid remake. And there's been many other worse remakes out there. This one, while it may not be as good as the original or have the magic of the original, it is better in many other ways, in other areas. And for that, I think it's severely underrated, and it's one of the better remakes out there. You can tell Will Smith producing this with his son, Jaden Smith. he had the utmost care for the original films, and they had definitely the heart from the original 3 films put into this one. And who could forget that ending? They really did something unique that rivaled The Crane in a way. And to start off the list at number 3, I would have The Karate Kid Part 3. Yeah, this really should have been Part 2. I feel like this is more of a sequel than Part 2 was. And you definitely get to see this new character of Terry Silver help the guy from Cobra Kai out. He's a former student, and this is pretty much their revenge on Daniel LaRusso for everything that happened in the first Karate Kid. Daniel loses his way a bit as well with Mr. Miyagi. Their relationship is tested, and we get to see this Terry Silver man just basically corrupt Daniel LaRusso throughout the whole film. Yeah, it is a fantastic movie. It's like freaking Rocky 3 and karate. John G. Avildsen directed the trilogy. He also directed the original Rocky and Rocky 5. Does a fine job in this. And the reason why it's lower on my list is because it's a really short movie, and the training montage is kind of brushed through. And that's sad because really there's a lot building up to it, and by the end of it you felt like it's rushed and more of the same stuff from the first movie, which is sad, but above all, it's a nice conclusion for the Daniel LaRusso Karate Kid trilogy. I love the moments with Mr. Miyagi and him, their relationship being tested, and ultimately Mr. Miyagi kicking their asses. I just love that whole part where that guy's mocking him and Mr. Miyagi just kicks his ass and he's just like, wah, wah. He's like, you're gonna pay for this, old man. Such a crazy movie. Plus, Mitch from Real Genius gets punched in the nose. Yeah. And he has a different love interest. It's not Elizabeth Shue. It's not the Asian girl from the other one. So it's different. But hey, I guess it's the 80s. I guess it's a sequel. You have to have a different love interest each time. But you can definitely tell that Ralph Macchio was getting a little bit older by this film. But hey, it's a nice conclusion. And it ended before the 80s ended. So it was a nice little beginning, middle, and end for the Karate Kid trilogy. At number 2 would be The Karate Kid Part 2. This sequel did something completely different from the original film. Elizabeth Shue couldn't come back. She was filming Adventures of Babysitting, so we had to have a transition. They ended up going to Japan, seeing Mr. Miyagi's father. He passes away, and there's this arc here with Mr. Miyagi and his brother. Yes, freaking Shredder from Ninja Turtles, but it's a sad story, and then we ultimately have his nephew there causing trouble for Daniel, and it's not a tournament. This is life and death. This is real, and that's something very deep about this movie. You also have that great scene with the ice blocks and other things, the drum, how the drumstick is applied to his fighting technique, and that ending is just so crazy. There's a love triangle, and he has to defend his honor and defend his woman in this, and it is such a crazy sequel. In many ways, I like the first and third for its Karate Kid feeling, but I respect Karate Kid Part 2 for doing something different and progressing the characters, progressing Daniel and Mr. Miyagi's relationship in this. We really get to know more about Mr. Miyagi as a character. We knew enough in the first one. He was a great character, a great mentor, but we really got to see his background in this, where he comes from, everything about it, the birthplace of karate, and that was a very nice touch here, having another region geography change, and that was very nice. I really like that aspect of the sequel. It's a totally different movie than the first film, and it continues right after, so you get to see him win the tournament. Freaking Cobra Kai guy just trying to punch Mr. Miyagi, and it's like, ah! I really like it, and who could forget Glory of Love by Peter Cetera in the film. I mean, just awesome love song ballad. Yeah, Karate Kid Part 2 is a fantastic sequel that measures up to the original. And after careful consideration, my favorite still has to be the original 1984 Karate Kid. There's so much that the others improved upon, explored, but there's something just magical and something just deep and really kind of underrated and underappreciated from the Karate Kid. You have him moving to another area. Every person can relate to that. The soundtrack of Cruel Summer, Young Hearts by Commuter, You're the Best by Joe Esposito. You're the best around. Yeah. But like how him and Mr. Miyagi meet, his mother having a job, and then just him being in another area. We all can relate to that at one point or another in our lives, of being at a different location, having no friends. And then I like Elizabeth Shue in this, Ralph Macchio and her, and then the bullies. Yeah, Cobra Kai. Who could forget him saying, sweep the leg, sweep it, and then he just like breaks. And then the Tiger Crane scene, I mean, was just fantastic. This definitely has a vibe of the first Rocky, and that's no accident considering John G. Avildsen directed this film. And The Karate Kid is a very deep coming-of-age tale, and also, besides, like, the romance, it's not only interracial, but also it's a very different world for both of them. They come from two different social classes, so besides it being a different region, you come from two different worlds of, like, social class, of her being rich and Dale really not being as rich as her friends or her parents or anybody. So you really get to delve in that. It's not really that apparent or that much focused on, but it's definitely in the film that makes it different from the other ones. And of course, him being bullied, maybe something to do with that. And then Mr. Miyagi coming in. You think he's just like this hotel manager guy who catches flies with chopsticks. No, he knows karate. And it's nice seeing their relationship in this. Mr. Miyagi makes these films, and the actor does such a fantastic job, whether it be in other roles where he was comedic or in Tora Tora Tora. He really brought something different to the role of Mr. Miyagi. And I don't think without him, this film would have been as good. The series would not have been as good without Mr. Miyagi. And he definitely helped pave the way. Ralph Macchio was also young enough and really good in this film. He was just helpless. And then once he learns karate, he's just like arguing with Mr. Miyagi. He's like, what does wax on or wax off do? The paintbrush. And he just shows him how all that stuff relates to karate and him fighting. And that scene is just amazing. This film has heart. It's an 80s classic. And yeah, every other Karate Kid afterwards has been trying to recapture the magic of this original film. And even though there might be some that might be better for other people, for me personally, the original Karate Kid is still my favorite. Anyway, that's it for my personal ranking of the Karate Kid films. I really love all the films for different reasons, but Karate Kid is definitely my most favorite. If you haven't seen the Karate Kid films, any of them, I highly recommend checking them out. If you have, feel free if you want to, in the comments below, let me know some of your favorite or least favorite Karate Kid films. If you like this video, click the like button, comment on your favorite Karate Kid films, and subscribe for more videos.